What documents do you need to bring to your citizenship interview? I'm Erick Widman. I'm an immigration lawyer. And after you've submitted your Form N-400, you've applied for citizenship, you've had your biometrics, your fingerprints taken at the local application support center, you will have finally received an interview notice inviting you to appear in person to be grilled about your immigration history and take the test to become a citizen. So your citizenship interview will be set up after a period of time that feels like it's taken too long. But once you've got that letter in hand, you'll want to make sure to bring everything, of course, that's required. And on a very practical level, make sure you don't miss the appointment. Write down in your calendar and set up a reminder on your smartphone to make sure that you attend the appointment at least a half hour ahead of time. After all that hard work, you simply don't want to try to reschedule your appointment. Also, on your interview notice, there is a set of bullet points that are a helpful guide, but not a complete guide to what you should bring in to your interview. So on the interview notice, about 3/4 of the way down, there's a section that says in bold, you must bring the following items with you. And depending if you are a man or a woman, depending if you're filing on the basis of your marriage to a US citizen or not, those factors directly impact what you need to bring in. So first on the list is bringing in the interview notice letter itself. And that's going to be required just to even get in the door and get through security at the field office. So the officer at the border, but officer in the field office who is not going to let you go through security through the metal detector unless you show him or her that you have an appointment and that you're not too early, you're not too late. Some people show up for the wrong day. So again, make sure your calendar system is locked in and you've got a reliable way to make sure you show up on time and don't get stuck in traffic. So you get through security with your interview notice. You'll be directed to sit down and wait for your interviewing officer to call you into his or her office. And then you're going to be required to present some important documents and some are required for every applicant, and some, as mentioned earlier, are not required. For example, if you are a woman, you don't need to register for the Selective Service. So that is another key item on the list. If you are male and you were required to have registered between ages 18 and 26 because you had the right status for that, you had a green card, then you have to bring in proof of registration or a status information letter from the Selective Service. So that is a key thing for men if it applies to you. But backing up a little bit, everyone needs to bring in their green card, also known as the alien registration card. So that is a prerequisite, fundamental requirement to naturalize. Your passport is also crucial, and we recommend bringing in past passports as well, because even those expired, you might have some helpful information in there about dates of entry into the United States or visa stamps that you might want to or need to show the adjudicating officer. It's just helpful backup. We also recommend that you bring in your driver's license, if you have one, or a state ID card, and that shows USCIS, your adjudicating officer, that you do live in their jurisdiction. So you need to show them that you do in fact live in the area still, and a driver's license is great proof for that. We already mentioned the Selective Service if you're a man. Now, if you've been arrested or detained in the past, there's some additional paperwork you have to bring in. So this applies if you were arrested or detained anywhere in the world, and for example, no charges were ever filed, you still need to bring in a court-certified arrest report and a certified statement from the court arresting agency that no charges were filed. Okay, so if you were arrested or detained and charges were filed, the requirements are a little different. And your adjudicating officer is going to want to see court certified arrest reports, charging documents, court dispositions, sentencing record, and evidence that you completed your sentence, such as a probation record. Continuing, if your record was expunged or removed, you got to bring in a court certified order for this expungement or an original statement from the court stating that your record no longer exists. So in general, if you have an arrest or conviction, charges were filed, or you were convicted, you've got to bring in proof of that disposition. You've got to bring in a lot of extra documents. And I recommend carefully look at the N400 instructions. I was able to pull a lot of this from there. So even though the guidance on what you need to bring does not show up on the interview notice letter, if you have criminal conviction, you still need to bring in those documents about the past criminal history and the disposition, arrest reports. You still need to bring those in because they're noted on the N400 instructions. So review those if you have a criminal issue in your past. It's also crucial and important if you do have a criminal issue or anything else that implicates good moral character and causes your officer to wonder if you have it for your statutory period, definitely bring in evidence that helps support and prove your good moral character and overcome a mistake that you made in the past. So that could be a letter of support from an employer or colleague. It can be proof that you filed all your tax returns. Those documents are especially important if you have a mistake in your past. Now, if you are naturalizing faster than the standard 5-year period because you're married to a US citizen, you'll want to bring in proof that you are in fact married to your spouse, and that can be proof of a bona fide marriage. A couple items like a joint tax return, pictures are good, joint bank statements are a good idea. But in addition to that, USCIS requires that you bring in your marriage certificate, a certified copy of that, any divorce decrees or death certificates for either you and your spouse for a prior spouse, and your spouse's birth certificate. Finally, if you are naturalizing on the basis of your service in the armed forces, you need to bring in your discharge certificate or form DD-214. Let us know if you have any questions about the required documents to bring into your naturalization interview. We're happy to help, and definitely take care.